Verbal Engine 95, recording live from Willow County Prison Cell. We are back doing death battle predictions, and today I have a pretty tame one, something that's not too genius up there, but I mean I think it has its merits. It's one that I've been waiting on for a while. I couldn't really decide something for this week, so I just went with this. That is Reptile from Mortal Kombat and Lizardman from Soul Calibur. It's another fighting game episode. I sometimes take issue with these. The way I would word it is I am very picky about certain trends with you know which franchises match up against each other. I much like many other people, I've said they do too many Marvel DC fights, or there are just too many Marvel DC fights because so many Marvel characters can just fight so many DC characters. But at the same time, I think there's a very good number of Marvel DC fights, like of good ones, of ones that should happen. And then there's others where it's like we can find a better opponent for this. Similarly, I think, yeah, like if I'm gonna have a Street Fighter character, I might prefer we look at another series, maybe like an anime or a movie or something other than like a fighting game. But I would still there's still fighting game fights that I think should happen, because the typical response to Street Fighter specifically is put them against a Mortal Kombat character, and the typical response with any fighting game is putting them against another fighting game character. But yeah, I feel like this is a good. This is one of the times where I'm like, yeah, I think these two should probably fight. I mean, there's a lot of arguments you can make for Reptile. Lizardman probably not so much, but there's a lot of fights you could put Reptile in. You could say the Lizard, but then again, like, the Lizard has Killer Croc, and the Lizard has Man-Bat. Again, Marvel DC fights. Or, you could even go farther than that and say, well, Killer Croc has Leatherhead from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Killer Croc has Abomination. I know, another Marvel DC fight. But, like, I could see a few ways that they could do the Reptile. But I think this is a fight that would be good. I think there's kind of a reason for that, and that is Mortal Kombat in recent years, at least. Recent years as in since like the 2D era. Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur do an exceedingly good job of fleshing out their characters, like lore and backstory and everything. A lot more than a lot of other fighting games have in the past. A lot of fighting games either have a very they either have an initial story that they just kind of go through all in one, and then they have to try to expand on it later, or they don't really have a story and they kind of develop it after a while, but for the most part the story is essentially this karate guy is the best karate guy, and this boxer is the best boxer, and this taekwondo guy is the best taekwondo guy, and that's really all the characters are. They don't really feel like going too far in with them, but I think these two do a very good job of, like, Mortal Kombat falls into that second category a little bit more, but like Soul Calibur I think is one of the best fighting games for backstories, in my personal opinion. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's go into it. So, Reptile, Sizoff is his real name, or no, real name is his species, the name he was given at birth. Yeah, and as you can, from what I just said, he is part of Outworld. He is from a race called the Zatara, I believe. And yeah, his race is typically a race of just reptilian monsters. They're just giant lizard people. He, however, was born with the ability to disguise himself as a human, which made him kind of an abomination amongst his people. He became outcast and by the way, this is mostly this is mostly post secondary timeline stuff. If we go into the primary timeline, he is born a humanoid version of his people rather than a giant monster with the ability to transform into a person. He's kind of like he's a lizard person, but he has like a more human build. Yeah, it's Mortal Kombat has a lot of timelines. However, pretty much his abilities all remain the same. He's got things like invisibility. He spits acid. He is a very, proficient fighter. Originally, he was actually, fun fact, he is technically the first unlockable fighting game or the first secret fighting game character in history. As in not unlockable per se, but like actually put into the coding of the game without an official like in-game way to unlock it that's told to you. And his moveset was originally based off of Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Now that doesn't technically make him scale to them, but he is a Mortal Kombat character, and as scaling with Mortal Kombat goes, they inherently get some ridiculous shit, like being able to, break through titanium and being able to, fight guys that can blow up the world and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, he has the ability to rip people in half. He has a giant tongue that can rip somebody's head off. The acid he spits can melt through steel and can melt through a human body in a matter of seconds. Yeah, he's incredibly dangerous, and again, he is a martial artist as well. He does have the ability to fight, not just like as a giant lizard person. He is adept at martial arts. I don't know the exact martial arts. They'd probably break that down if he was actually in Death Battle. But yeah, he is a very dangerous opponent, and as most Mortal Kombat characters tend to be. But he did kind of, as far as his character goes, he kind of, he's kind of gotten shafted in every role he's ever been in, because he's been a loyal yet unwilling puppet of Liu Kang. He's been kind of just like, he's had the rest of his race be annihilated before, so he was the last remaining member of his race, which led to him in it wasn't Armageddon. It was it Armageddon? No, it was Deadly Alliance, I think. In Deadly Alliance, he had to his ending is that you unlock the chest of stuff that that's like the number one thing you need or whatever. It's like your greatest wish. And it was a female of his species inside the chest so that he could actually propagate his race again. Yeah, and he's then in the new timeline, like I said, he's an outcast. His whole race hates him, and he's not welcome anywhere except for with humans, so he's kind of, he kind of gets the short end of the stick. But the same can be said about his opponent, Lizardman. Originally he was a Spartan soldier by the name of Aeon Kalkos, which I am glad that I said that early, because I was not going to remember that name alongside every other name I had to remember up until now. And he was one of the 24 warriors chosen by the god Hephaestus to destroy Soul Edge, because Soul Edge was the one weapon that the Greek forger of weapons, with the blacksmith of the gods, feared. Hephaestus isn't technically a god, I don't think, actually, but whatever. In Greek mythology, but he was one of the 24 warriors chosen, and trekked through the desert, was dying, and was basically made into a mindless killer as a sort of, I think it was like a mind control thing or something, and he accidentally slaughtered a village, and that brought him the attention of another guy who turned him into a lizard. So originally he had his kind of like memories, and he had, he was like frantically trying to become not a lizard. And then as time went on, he sort of lost those memories, and he couldn't, and he just became more ruthless and savage. And then coincidentally, there was an actual race of lizard people that he joined, and because he was so battle hardened and savage by this point, he actually became their chief. And then further down the line after that, he ends up going through a mutation, but we'll cover that in a second. So yeah, even though he technically he retained some of his battlefield acumen and everything, but he doesn't technically have his memories of being a Spartan soldier. So he doesn't technically have all that experience, even though it's just what's built into his muscle memory. But that doesn't make him any less of a soldier. He did, however, curse Hephaestus's name and throw away his weapons that were like wholly forged weapons that were made specifically for him, and just ended up giving those up for, whatever he could dual wield. Pretty much, he's used a sword and a shield, an axe and a shield, 2 axes, etc., etc. But as far as experience goes, it's kind of iffy whether or not he actually, should be considered a trained soldier. But, he's still capable of like rolling himself up into a ball. His new physiology makes up for that. He can bite people. He can use the tail as a tensile weapon. He can roll himself up into a ball and basically spin dash. I think he even does like an Izuna drop at some point. It's really weird that like a soldier character would do that. Yeah, and then that mutation I talked about, eventually, after completely forgetting his humanity and like becoming more and more mindless outside of like his dreams, his physiology takes over and he actually grows wings so he can now fly, and then he gets the ability to breathe fire, which is kind of fucking crazy. But yeah, I mean, he is I said with Reptile, Lizardman is a very dangerous opponent, and yeah, I mean, it's this. Like I said, this is a fight that I'd like to see. Going into the prediction though. So, really, their power sets have some similarities, but other than really, this could go either way. I think the difference here, more so than power output, is probably, and this sounds very cliche, is probably the fact that Sizoth is an intelligent creature, not a clever, cunning predator or something. He's an intelligent being. He's sentient, and and is also very clever in terms of tactics. He's not a mindless brute, right? And even like I said, you could argue that because Aeon has the however many years of being a soldier, but like I said, all of his memories are pretty much gone, so the only remnants of his training is what he has committed to muscle memory. He can't really recount for that, and again, his fighting style reflects that. He ends up just being a complete just animal. I mean, literally, but like being like, he just ends up being like a mindless savage, just attacking. He's hardened, he's battle hardened, but he's not like, he didn't really retain his like training per se. Whereas like I said, Sizoth is a legitimate martial artist, and like, his moveset also makes him more set to take advantage of something like that. Like things like invisibility and stealth and transformation and things like that are very in his favor when it comes to dealing with somebody that's not really doesn't have human level intelligence. You could say that, you know, maybe there's like an enhanced sense of smell thing going on, and he could like Lizardman might be able to, you know, smell size off if he turns invisible, but even then, I mean, that's just like I said, that's where the advantage is the fact that he is facing a, you know, an animal basically. As far as like flight and you know, fire versus like acid and whatnot goes, I think that's pretty much not super relevant. So yeah, I'm gonna give this to Reptile. But yeah, I think this is a good fight. I mean, I think their characters line up, not just in the sense that they're both reptilian characters, but they also, you know, they kind of have that same sense of like not belonging and or like regret and you know, being lost to your own and things like that. Like, you know, Reptile had his whole race wiped out, and you know, Aeon ended up with, you know, having to abandon his people and you know, live a life of solitude. And it was, yeah, I think that's really the thing we're looking at here, and it happens to be but that's what you need for a fighting game, for a fight like this. You can't just say, here's a fighting game character, which other fighting game character do we put them up against? You have to actually have there be some substance to it, and I think this is a good example of that. But anyway, Verbal Engine 95, see ya.